Hello, everyone. This is your favorite voice of business psychology. I am your host, Kritika Kashyap, a management psychologist. Today's episode is going to blow your mind. I am thrilled to introduce you to someone I call the future man, Tapas Tiwari. With nearly a decade as a management consultant, Tapas has seen it all, from consumer retail to steel making. He is a wizard at transforming HR data into strategic asset and decoding human mind. We will be talking about how AI is shaking up industries, what Gen Z wants from work, and the changing landscape of leadership, and so much more. You think you know the work of future? Tapas is about to take us on a whole new journey. Strap in. This is one conversation you cannot afford to miss. Tapas, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast Psych and Success, the Gen Z edition.
Thank you, Kritika, for having me. It is such a pleasure to be here. I've listened to a couple of episodes during my drive to work, and I must say it's great to hear different perspectives. So I'm really excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
So that was the reason that I really wanted you to be on the podcast, because I see you as a future guy and who is so much involved in tech and AI. And I wanted to deep dive into your experience and how you have evolved with time, and where did this excitement of getting into the tech and technology AI come from. So why don't you introduce yourself to our audience, to our listeners?
Thank you for your kind words, Kritika. I think first of all, I must thank you. I'm a management consultant who uses data and analytics to provide services to the organizations that I work for, to my clients, etc. And one of the things I really love doing is getting involved in and seeing how technology interacts with humans, and how much productive it makes us, how much productive we become once we start using technology. So I'm really keen on exploring this area further. I work in this area, so I'm very happy in my career to be working in this area.
Yeah.
And the fact that I get to work on what I love, I think that's been a key driver during my journey. And obviously, I started my career as an organizational transformation consultant with one of the big fours.
Okay.
And then I got into people analytics, and I provided people analytics services for the metals and mining industry. And then that's kind of been my trajectory until now. I've been assisting the organizations, HR organizations, CHROs with data-driven decision making, and using people data, talent data, organizational data
Wow,
to
okay.
provide those insights.
Oh, that's very interesting, because, every time I have a conversation with you, it has been so insightful that I learn one thing or the other. And you have been so passionately talking about the new generation coming up and how things have been evolving. So, because you have dived so deep in the HR analytics area, how have you seen any change that Gen Z is bringing, or how organizations are accommodating Gen Z with HR, using HR analytics?
No, for sure. I think HR analytics, if we look at it, or any analytics, like what it does, it looks at data, it tries to pick out patterns, and then it tries to predict like what can be the outcome. It tries to provide early warning around anything that might go wrong. It can identify different opportunities which an organization can make use of. So similarly for HR analytics as well, it's basically the same thing, but just applied on talent and the people that work for you. And I know it's quite a cliched saying, but everyone says that people are an organization's greatest asset. That's because everything else you can bring together, but if you do not have a good team, a good person leading that, and if you do not have people who are able to work with the resources that you provide them and deliver an outcome, it won't matter like what else you have on the table.
Absolutely, yeah.
So I'm a big believer in that statement, and that's why I feel like It's quite important for organizations to really invest into their people analytics capabilities, invest into those systems, those technologies that can actually help provide them with a view that they maybe have not had until now. And
Okay.
primarily that's because like usually in an organization, when you want to measure performance, like they'd always look at financial metrics,
Yeah.
how they're doing on their like what's the total money in the bank, how much they're selling, what's the profit margin, how much revenue they're generating. But very few organizations have been able to look at how productive they are in a very good manner, in a comprehensive manner. And that's where I think the next sort of jump lies. And especially
Okay.
because with the advent of artificial intelligence, we see that there is going to be a massive upheaval in terms of the jobs that people do.
Right.
Some low level, middle level jobs which do not need too much of creative process might even get automated completely using AI. So
Okay.
it's very important for us to identify where we get our talent from, how we get our talent, and how can they interact with the resources like say an artificial intelligence capability that you can buy off the shelf from the market,
Right.
and how can you make your organization more productive from a people
Right.
standpoint.
So when you say that, how do you reach out to the talent that actually the organization require? So how do you think? Because all the researches that I've been reading and the people that I've been talking to, now organization are trying to move towards skill based hiring. So how do you think, in your experience, organization can actually look into the kind of talent they want?
No, I think the first task in this kind of a way would be to look at what you want, so what your outcome is going to be, break it down in a series of steps or tasks that need to be completed to get that outcome, look at the skills needed to
Right.
complete those tasks, and then try and match the talent that has the skill. So then you identify what kind of a persona, what kind of a profile you want for someone to be in that kind of a role. And then obviously the traditional HR function of like recruitment kicks into place. They'll go out, they'll look at sourcing those profiles and see which people have those skills, whether they have any additional qualifications, experience that they bring onto the table, and then align them and move them towards bringing them into the organization. I think
Okay.
I think it's quite important that skills concept. It's very important because it essentially breaks down into what I bring to the table. So
Okay.
in not in terms of like where did I do my graduation from, what my degree is, what kind of experience I have, or which kind of big brands do I have in my profile. It kind of just filters everything down to what kind of skills do I have, what do I bring into the mix, and can I work with the skills that organization already has. Can I bridge some of those gaps that is needed for the organizational strategic direction.
Right.
And I think that's where it's also important for organizations to have a very clear idea of what their current skill set is, their skills inventory, look at what their strategic direction is, where do they want their organization to be in 5 year 10-year time frame, and what skills would be needed at that time, and then try and bridge that gap.
Yeah, as you say this, like educational qualification from not would not really depend on the kind of college or universities that you're going on. Do you not think that all the top-notch universities would just crash in some time?
No, actually not. Like I'd in fact imagine that they might in fact become more powerful that way, because
Okay.
they would be the ones that would be doing great research on what future could look like, what are their skills for future, and they might have they would definitely have those leading researchers, leading professors who would be able to teach the skills,
Yeah.
impart the vision to their cohorts, their classes. And I think I in fact feel like they might in fact become more powerful only with this. I don't see them going weaker.
Okay. So before we move forward, I would want to understand from you, because you did mention all the organizational gain from HR analytics and the management consultant side. But what got you interested in the first place?
I think mix of humans and technology. I love reading, and I see technology as this great uh, deliverer of change. It's almost next to it's almost next to God. Some can say, because
Okay.
like if you come to think of it, I think the moment we probably invented wheel as a race,
Yeah.
we just sort of took it a notch above every other
Absolutely.
species on the planet, right? In terms of mobility, the moment we learned how to fly across continents, like that was it. Like that created the network that was needed to become very powerful as a species.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think whenever you interact with technology, it also impacts how you think, how you behave, how you change almost. So sitting in that area where I can look at actual data and see how technology is impacting people in their work life, how it impacts people in terms of the behaviors that they demonstrate, the personalities that they have. I'm like quite excited by by this mix. And mainly because you see any kind of data, like it would either be a leading indicator, any metric, like it could be a leading indicator, it could be a lagging indicator. Leading ones would show you like where this is going, where this is trending, how it can impact future. Lagging ones will show you what has already happened, so that you kind of learn from it, understand the pattern, and then create scenarios where you can understand, if this thing comes to pass, how am I going to deal with it. And so just sitting in that space where I can actually work with data, analyze those scenarios, like understand what kind of possibilities can occur, and how can I manage them, how can I help my organization, my leaders manage it. I think that's a great area to be in, and I'm very passionate about it.
Have you seen any trends or interesting situations with Gen Z coming in the picture, and with their, objectives, their motivation, their desire to work with any organizations?
Yeah, so I think some are quite clear. I think one, this generation, I think they live for authenticity. So they're very authentic in terms of what they believe in, and they're very steadfast in terms of what they believe in. So I think they pick up causes and they run with it. So it's very important for organizations to be very consistent in their communication with them from the first day. So pretty much from the moment like you reach out to a person from Gen Z, you need to be very clear with your values, what you stand for, because this is one generation where if there's any bit of dissonance for them between what they want to do and the values that they carry, and the organization in terms of the values that organization carries, if there's any dissonance, then they're very quick to make that judgment and move out. And because they're very socially networked generation, I think there's the first socially networked generation that we have had. So they are very happy with digital collaboration. They can collaborate very quickly and quickly organize themselves into groups and teams, and be able to kind of leverage each other's strength and deliver on outcomes. And I think it was somewhat more challenging with previous generations, because they needed a figure of authority or some kind of an organizational structure to be able to deliver on these things.
So
Whereas I think Gen
how
Z
do you
can do
think
that.
it has changed? I mean, because Gen Z has already seen their parents and people around them working in an authoritative state. So how do you think Gen Z, what changed them?
I think again their interaction with technology. So like from an early age, I think they have been exposed to social networks. They understand how they can get into and form like small groups, committees, communities, etc. And they're very keen on their identity. They carry their
Right.
identity pretty straightforward, right? Pretty strongly as well. And when they are able to do that, then they bring their authentic selves to work. So which is why you would see some of these conversations around diversity, inclusion
Yeah.
happening a lot these days, because obviously every individual's personality, behavior, values could be different.
Absolutely.
And we need workplaces and organizations to be able to bring all of them, inculcate all of them together. Whereas earlier it was more around that you have a figure of authority, and you go, you work there, and there's like certain norms that you need to fill in. And I think some of these things can even be seen in workplaces, right? Earlier you used to
Okay.
have almost some kind of a dress code
Yeah,
for
yeah.
people in organizations. Now increasingly that's not there, and people are able to be casual about what they wear in
Yep.
workplaces. So yeah, I think some of those changes are coming in. Plus the use of digital tools, collaboration tools. I think that's really picked up since Gen Z, and obviously once pandemic hit. And after pandemic, the pace of change that has just accelerated way beyond what it was earlier.
Right.
And I think that's also given a reality check to organizations that they also need to focus more on the strengths that Gen Z bring into workforce and workplaces, and see how they can use them to their advantage. Because as we go along, obviously their proportion is going to increase further in the
Absolutely,
workforce.
yeah, yeah. Because when you were saying that organizations for Gen Z to embrace Gen Z in their workplace, organizations will have to be more transparent about their values, their missions, and how what sort of skills do they need, where are they leading with their projects and everything. Do you think, I mean, having a dress code and that, all those things are okay, but then do you think organizations are really ready to be so much transparent? Because something as salary transparency is also a huge deal. I do see a couple of organizations opening up with their salaries, but then still organizations are really facing a huge challenge with that. So how do you see organizations changing, and you being in a leadership position yourself?
I think organizations they transform over a period of time with the workforce that they have, and they also take help of the other consulting organizations, other leaders who have already undertaken that journey. So with so much change afoot, I think everyone is very conscious of the fact that you cannot I mean, standing still is now getting left behind.
Yeah.
So pretty much you need your workplace to be able to imbibe the new changes that are coming in. And a lot of that is a function of leadership. So leaders have to drive that message very clearly, that what they stand for, what the organization stands for, and what they want from the new generation that is coming into the workforce. So you do not want to land up in a situation where you show or sell a different kind of a vision or a dream to a prospective candidate who's coming into your organization.
Right.
And once they reach there, they do not find it. Because I think another thing that separates Gen Z from previous generations is that they're very quick to make the judgment and kind of shift their organization, move from the organization, and if it doesn't meet their
Right.
expectations.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So if organizations become very clear in terms of what their value proposition is, what their employee value proposition is, it really helps the person who's coming in to make up their mind how closely they align with the organization and what its purpose, what its outcomes are, and then they can make that choice for themselves whether they would want to be in that role
And
or
how
not.
they can make an impact with their
Exactly.
skills and experience in their
Exactly.
projects.
Yeah.
So talking about that, because again, since you are a senior manager in your company, there was a Business Howard review article that I was reading, and it said that now managers are at a standpoint where they termed it as transformational deficit, which meant that there is a gap between the willingness to go through the transformation and what is the transformation that is actually needed. So, as a manager yourself, do you think that the managers are getting crushed with all the expectation that the management level or the leaders or the top management of the company has, and what the newcomers, the fresh graduates, or people who are below the managerial level, meeting their expectations and being a leader who is more empathetic, because that is what is more needed and more prevalent at this era, or maybe of a servant leadership, which is a term that is now very relevant
Yeah.
to the organization. What do you think? How has your experience been with it?
I think that's what managers get paid for, right? To get squeezed in between. But
Okay.
no, I think on a lighter note. But if you really see, I think post pandemic, so much change has come through. There's so much change that is still ongoing. That yes, there's a change fatigue, and a lot of people, I think, especially in middle management, do feel that squeeze because there is a push from the leadership to align the organization into the new space faster,
Right.
and yet you do not want to pressurize people, your frontline workers, to be so as you don't want to burn them out as
Yep.
well, right? And I think one of the ways that managers can do that is to align expectations very clearly between the different levels of hierarchies. So have a very clear idea, very clear vision of what is needed by the leadership and what is the timeline in which it needs to be delivered, and have that very clear conversation with your staff, your teams, your frontline workers as well, in terms of what they need to do to meet that organizational goal. And I think that's where the challenge of communication comes in, because everyone is different. You would have people from 3 different generations, 5 different generations within the same setups,
Yeah.
between leaderships and your frontline workers. And you need to be very attuned to what they're feeling, what kind of values they carry, and
Right.
be like, keep your listening ear like open pretty much, so that you're able to pick up on signs where you feel like something could be stressing out your leadership, something could be stressing out your staff, your teams, and make sure to make yourself available and have that
Right.
conversation with them, and guide them, at times coach them, where their performance could be improved to drive the organizational goal. It obviously is not something that happens in one day.
Yeah,
You
absolutely.
have to build that relationship of trust between yourself and your leadership, and you and your own team. And you build that trust, I feel, by being authentic,
Yeah.
by being true to what you expect of people and what they should expect of
Yeah,
you.
totally agree.
And if you I think if you do that, you'd find that most people are very willing and kind of very positive to share with you what they can deliver, how they can deliver. And I think then you need to bring in your planning and analytical skills, and see where can you place certain people, and how can you deliver that outcome for the organization. So I think the fatigue is there, but there are ways that you can actually get past it.
So yeah, so that's what I wanted to dive a little bit deeper as well on. Because is this fatigue management training would be the new thing for the managers? Because
It already is. Like you'd find a lot of such courses available.
oh,
and
okay,
and
okay.
and like the spawning of multiple mental health apps and
Yeah.
like these on Play Store and App Store. I think that's also a trend that kind of relates quite closely to this. And in fact, it's one of the benefits that's being provided by organizations, that you have availability of reaching out to a counselor, and you obviously it's all anonymous, but you can reach out to a counselor, you can discuss your challenges with them, both professional and personal, because there is that recognition at the top levels of leadership that we need to be more empathetic with our people.
Right.
We need to be kind, we need to be genuine with our teams. We
Yeah.
cannot we cannot use them for our purposes or for any political reasons as such.
Yeah, that's so good that you brought this up because just the other day I was reading that with the coming of all these apps and that organizations are providing for the employees and they using that a lot of data has been
That absolutely,
collected, a
yeah.
lot of personal data has been collected of the employees that now the organization have, although there is a lot of confidentiality in the picture, but then personal data is with them. So that's another area where now experts are looking into that, how that can be legalized or what could be the laws
and
and policies around it.
and I think like EU has very strong GDPR laws, and Australia has very strong GDPR laws. US is also catching up. Asian countries are catching up. So I think everyone recognizes that you collect this data, you can mine it, and as with all technology, you can mine it for a good purpose, you can mine
Yeah.
it for a bad purpose.
Yeah.
So and that's actually one of the challenges that analytics teams face, because when we do any advanced analytics or data science projects, we have to make sure that we anonymize that data. That data should not become personally identifiable for anyone. You never, like, you set certain data thresholds so
Yeah.
that you will not take any let's say survey responses like below a certain threshold. So say if less than 8 people, less than 10 people have responded to a survey, you won't get into analyzing it, because it can eventually identify a person
Yeah.
individually,
Yeah.
and that potentially can be used against them. So those kind of checks and balances have to be put in place, because uh, as the technology advances, as more algorithms come into play, obviously if someone is able to collect data now, for example, if someone is able to collect data in terms of the number of calls I've made to my counselor over, let's
Yeah.
say let's say past 3 years, and they are able to plot a trend, and they see that, oh, there's certain months in a year that those calls become more frequent, and it coincides, let's say, with some kind of performance cycle, some kind of performance review,
Yeah.
then does it mean that I'm feeling more stressed around the time, and
Right.
someone can potentially use that data to help
Against
me
or
or
yeah,
use it
yeah.
against me, right? Both ways.
Yeah.
Like and what if part of the conversations that I have with my counselor, they become public, or they kind of get into a domain where they're not, that is not protected.
Yeah.
And I think that those are some of the concerns, definitely, and those are the challenges that we as an industry are facing, and not only in HR, but larger, for all the
Absolutely.
businesses
So
as
that
well.
actually reminded me of one of the Netflix series, Black Mirror.
Yeah.
And there was this episode exactly around this only, that person's life was on display.
Yeah.
So that was not used in a very good manner, because a lot of even the legal lawyers couldn't help her with,
Yeah.
with wherever it was going.
I think
So
every contract you sign, you have to like read through the fine print and
yeah, I
see
mean,
what
yeah, but
you're
then
committing to.
people, even people as me, I do not go through the whole contract, or even when I just tick mark I
No, start doing
consent.
that.
Yeah. So now that we are talking about policies and regulations, and since you in the HR you also work with the compliances, have you seen with Gen Z coming, and new generation coming into the organizations, have they impacted the laws, the rules and regulations of the organization in any way?
Um, Definitely. I think one of the areas that you can look at is the case of parental leaves. So earlier, most parental leaves provided across organizations and in most countries was about 3 months for
Yeah.
from the mothers. Fathers always had about 5 days. That's it. And in some cases, even those 5 days were not paid for.
Oh my God.
So
Okay.
with Gen Z coming in, I think there's obviously this factor where of gender equality, and they see fathers as being equal caregivers, caretakers of kids or parents at home, and that's where a lot of organizations these days have started giving 6 months of parental leave to both mothers as well as fathers.
Yeah, even Finland has
Yeah, yeah.
government
Government
has the
regulation
rule.
has that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
and I think that's a direct impact of the new generation coming into workforce and changing the policy because of their beliefs and values that they believe in.
Right.
And I think again a great movement forward, because earlier, like, it was majorly males who used to go out and work, and females
Right.
had this caregiving relationship. I think we have moved forward for the better, that
Yeah.
this recognition has come in, that because females do equal amount of work at workplaces, they go through similar pressures, they face probably more challenges than a male does in the workplace, right? So they cannot be expected to be the sole caregivers or sole caretakers at home.
True.
And being able to impact the policy that way, I think that's definitely something that Gen Z has brought in. The other one has been I think flexible work. So with pandemic, I think people realize the strength of flexible work, that you can allow
Right.
people to choose how, when, and where to work from. And I think when is a very sidestepped component of flexibility when we look at.
Right.
But come to think of it, how wonderful it is that you can have people, and I've seen live examples where people would start off their day early. They'd log in, they'd see, like, they'd kind of clear their mails, they'll look at what tasks need to be performed during the day.
Right.
Then they'll prepare breakfast for their children, and maybe even drop them off to school, come back, start off with the core working part of their day, and pretty much finish the tasks by the time the kids come back from school. And probably spend some time with them, finish off, and, like, put them to sleep. And maybe just at the end of the day, just take an inventory of, like, what all they accomplished in the day, and
So
then
they
set up
have
for
a
next.
more charge on their day and on their life.
Exactly, and more independence to perform. And I am a firm believer that when you give that choice to people, you make them more productive, because they are attuned to it, and they recognize that the organization is supporting them with this. So flexible working policies, I think, another thing that we have to thank the new generation for. And I think in some areas you'd see a more transparent reward structure, more transparent pay structure. Organizations have now started providing the logic by which they would calculate the bonus for the employees, the performance bonuses.
Right.
So that if you know what your performance rating is, you can actually calculate your own performance bonus, and there's no
wow.
there's no veil in front of it. And I think this is again something that's kind of that has come into workplace in last 5-6 years, mainly since the new generation has started coming in. And some of the benefits, so having like I mean, earlier you'd mostly have, like, medical insurance, you'd have some kind of travel allowance, food allowance,
Pensions and
and
everything.
pensions and everything. Think now it's more like you can actually pick and choose from a basket of benefits in terms of what really fits you and your lifestyle. and that means that you are more attuned to what the organization is offering you, what your total pay package is as a whole, and you can make those decisions for yourself. You don't like outsource them to someone else. So I think these are some of the changes that have definitely come through, and we have to thank the
Yeah.
new generation.
Yeah, that's brilliant. That's very interesting to actually understand how the younger generation and the Gen Z has been playing a role in the organization. Because, and thank you for sharing all this, because a lot of older generation or people, or even in general, uh, they see Gen Z as somebody who are just on social
Disruptor.
media,
Yeah.
rebels and everything. But
Yeah.
then they are, more than anything, they're doing good for everybody by disrupting the organizational law and policies and the way organizations are act.
No, and I think that's true, right? Because an organization has to be a reflection of the environment, the society
Yeah.
it's a part of, and you have people, obviously, who make up that society, who make up that world, and when they come into workplace, they'll want to carry their own self. They'd want to feel safe
Yeah.
in that environment, and that's a term that's actually become quite popular these days around psychological safety. So you want to feel safe, and you want to feel comfortable in your own skin. You do not want to feel like someone is judging you for who you are,
Yeah.
or like what you bring to the table. So being psychologically safe, I think, is really important. And I think that's where like I know, like, we might sound like old generations are not doing like much, or and like it's only a positive that's been coming because of Gen Z. But I think older generations we have to be really grateful for, because in a lot of ways they're seeing and they're seeding that space for the new generation to come in and impact the changes this way. because
Absolutely.
because even now, most of the leaders that we'd see, most of the middle management that we would see, they'd be people who would not be of Gen Z,
Yeah.
and yet they're trying to make that change. They're transforming themselves. They're trying to learn new things, which are, or probably might be a challenge for them, but they're
Right.
still putting in that effort, because they want to make sure that what they leave for the next generation is sustainable,
Yeah,
and it
yeah,
carries on
absolutely.
for a longer
Yeah,
duration.
so when I think about it, like people like you who are so, again, futuristic and so much into AI, um, so younger generation, Gen Z, is looking for more of coaches and mentors, and people who are, let's say, millennials or Gen X, who have been in the industry, in the organization for so long. They are the ones who can actually share and impart their knowledge, share their experiences, and that is how, I mean, I see them as one of the most crucial parts of Gen Z's growth.
Yeah, no, you hit the nail on the head there. I think absolutely, and that's I recently was in a call where I heard this great case. So in one of the largest steel manufacturers, this thing happened, that they realized that they had a lot of the skills within the organization
Okay.
which were needed for them to take the next step in their
Okay.
strategic journey. The skill that they were missing was coaching.
Ah,
That
right.
they had that skill in middle management, but the middle management did not know how to coach the frontline workers or their
Right.
teams.
Yeah.
So they invested a lot in setting up those programs which would teach people how to coach someone.
Wow.
and
Okay.
and I think that's something that is becoming increasingly important in organizations. I think everyone recognizes that there's a great repository of organizational knowledge that resides with previous generations, in
True.
terms of the processes, in terms of how that industry has developed, in terms of intuitive decisions around what do you need to do in certain situations, especially say if you're working in a chemical plant,
Okay.
and you're sort of working off sensors, and I know most of them are automated these days in
Right.
terms of the readings that they pick up, and they can track what temperature a certain liquid is boiling at, and when it becomes hazardous, when it becomes dangerous for the plant as a whole.
Right.
So the previous generations or workers who have actually worked in those plants for like 20 years, 30 years, they know these things by like on their fingertips. Like they don't even need to think twice before just looking at a number and realizing that this could be dangerous, this could be fatal, this could be hazardous for
Right.
anyone who's there.
Yeah.
Like a sensor, an algorithm might still want to track that particular reading with a couple of other readings and see and try and create a relationship with some of the other parameters or readings that they come up with. But like a plant worker who has worked there for 30 years would be able to recognize it like that.
Absolutely.
And I think in a lot of ways, while we want to mimic the human intelligence using artificial intelligence and make decisions more logically, rationally, so to say,
Right.
I think it's still important to keep a human touch, especially within human resources.
Yeah.
You need to have that humanistic side to leadership, and it's good that we see the advancements because they help us become more productive. But we need to recognize that we do not want to pawn everything off to an AI based robot and just work off that, because even understanding and intuitively understanding that what we need to do, I think takes a long time and long experience.
Right.
Which
And that is why humans do not need to worry with AI coming.
no, I think some do, especially by some of the jobs that do not have too much of a creative process involved. I think they would be the prime ones that would be at a risk. But I always see this as a transformational journey. So like some of the jobs, while they might get like they might end, you might not need to hire people for those jobs anymore, because they can be done by an automated robot or by an AI system. It would mean that the existing jobs, they also transform and change into something else. And we have already seen cases like that in the past where like when some of the large manufacturing organizations, they have replaced a section of workers with automated machinery. They have trained those workers to become operators for the machinery, or provide maintenance for it. And I think similarly, in the knowledge economy, with AI coming in with say things like chat GPT, we have already seen that things like Midjourney, DALL-E, they are able to create pictures out of the just the prompts that you share with them, right? So while that is happening, we have to understand how can we leverage that in our day-to-day jobs. So say if someone is a graphic designer, rather than doing say 2 projects every month, can they now take on 200 just because they have an assistant? And I see this personally in HR as something amazing, because come to think of it, like if you are in a recruitment function, right? You would have had to like source through 50 different profiles for a certain job description, try and make sense like how many skills these people have, and how closely do they align with what is required for the job. And AI can do that for you very quickly. It can summarize, it can give you a ranking of like top 5 prospective candidates out of that pool. And you can actually then become more productive, because you would be able to move away from admin repetitive tasks to more strategic tasks, and you can then start discussing with your leaders in terms of like how which skills are most commonly available in the market. Do you see a certain skill not very like which is not very democratic, or kind of like not very easily available? And so if you see candidates having few of those skills, you target them for maybe a future position.
Okay.
So it can just make you a lot more productive than you already are. And I think that's how we need to approach it. And I think it's almost like a neuter, right? Just get playing with it. You'll reach somewhere.
Yeah. So, since you talked about how recruitment can change in the future, can you also, share some instances on how you think HR analytics future can look like with the AI coming, or where all can you use AI into it, maybe to, or if there is a Gen Z angle to it as well.
I think from an HR analytics standpoint, most of the projects that you do today, the usual HR analytics projects, all of them can be coded through a chat GPT very easily.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
You just need to give it correct prompts. You just need to give it, provide it correct direction, and it will write that code down for you.
So are you now, you are learning prompt engineering for yourself?
I think, see, like in a lot of ways, it's how would I say, I put it like it's like working with a very powerful assistant. So if you are very clear on what you need, you would, if you can explain it to the AI in simple words,
Right.
it will give you a result that is satisfactory. That will not need you to put in as much effort as you probably would have otherwise.
Okay.
And with analytics, it's the same. That it would be able to, obviously it already picks up patterns much faster than a human can. It is, we already have algorithms that can like churn through massive quantities of data that is not humanly possible. So already it is impacting, but what it is doing is it is also taking this field further. It is developing the field further, because like you would start off with, if you look at the maturity model that kind of goes around, you would start off with simple reporting and just telling people in terms of, like, say what your head count is, how many people joined you, how many people left you, and what is the employee satisfaction going on, what is the employee engagement score, all of those things. Then it to next level, when it matures, it kind of gets into a predictive state. So now you have seen like what is happening. If you can identify a pattern from it, like trend this over a period of time, track it for a period of time, understand what kind of pattern emerges, and then try and make a prediction for next time, like what can happen next time.
Right. Okay.
So that's the next level of maturity that again AI already is doing. Then you can prescribe. So once you identify what can happen, there could be like 5 different outcomes that can happen, and on the basis of those 5 outcomes, what are the series of steps that you need to take. So let's say, if I am in a business where I have to sell a certain quantities of houses every month, right? For to hit my strategic goals. Now I can, with this I can actually see how much I sold last year, how much I sold last quarter, how much I sold last month, and plot it over a period of time, understand what is the pattern that is emerging. Try and predict that, okay, next Diwali I'd be able to sell this much more, next Christmas season I'll be able to sell this much more. And then you see, oh, but there is a cost of living crisis in UK, so maybe the purchasing power for people has come down, so I might not be able to sell as much this Christmas season. So what could be the series of steps that I need to take so that I still am able to make good on the profit that I had planned for this quarter. So that prescriptive level, I think that is where the game is right now. And a lot of people are already doing it. A lot of organizations are already doing it. And I think you'd see like that's how the level of maturity goes up. So with AI coming in, this becomes faster. This grows even more. And then you can start reaching a stage where you start reaching out to your executive leadership, and you can start telling them from an HR analytics standpoint that, boss, I feel like in 2035 this would be the major requirement for our products, and these would be the major markets where we can sell our products. So we need to have a certain kind of a workforce mix for that. And we need to achieve this strategic vision. So our workforce needs to be skilled in these areas. We currently have these skills in the mix.
Right.
These 5 skills are our gaps between what we want and where we are today. And this AI is able to tell me the pathway of how I can bridge that gap.
Very interesting.
Right. So and this is this kind of happens, and like look at think of it from a micro level like this. We looked at a macro level, right, at an organizational level. At an individual level, suppose you had an AI assistant, super powerful AI assistant, with which you can converse and just discuss in terms of what future path you need your career to take, what kind of skills you need to build, and how do you reach that stage. And suppose like you can actually provide it with an input of, say, an idol that you have. Maybe let's say like Kritika wants to be next Michelle Obama. Then like what are the skills that you need to build to become that?
What are the next steps that I can
What are the
take
next
in
steps
my
that you
career
can
path?
take? Exactly.
That's very insightful and very intriguing to me, on how things are. I think we are in a very interesting and exciting phase of
Absolutely.
our life, and just how things are going to turn.
Absolutely. And I think that's kind of what keeps me excited, and that's why I'm like very passionate about this field, because like as much as we try, and obviously we want the AI to do a lot for us, be very productive for us. We still do not know the full capabilities of our own brain. And we are the ones who are setting up like the next artificial intelligence. So even we do not know how we change once we start interacting with an AI. Maybe it changes the way we think, the way we see certain things. And I think that's like a beautiful space to be in, right? It's like Goldilocks zone, where you kind of sit in, you look at how people are interacting, how people are working in their workspaces, and then you see this influx of technology coming in, and you know that you obviously will have to use the technology, you'll be getting to use it. So quite an exciting phase for all of us.
Absolutely. So my last question for you would be, if you were to advise Gen Z coming in the organization, or have 2-3 years of experience already in organizations, what advice would you give to them to navigate through the organization setup and organization, because they are still in the transformative journey? What advice would you give them?
I think play to your strengths. One, you have great strengths that are aligned with what is happening in the world. So make sure that you leverage them. Be very open minded. Listen a lot, and try and have conversations with people from previous generations. They carry a lot of experience, and more than likely they'll be very willing to help, support, and guide you, coach you in your journey, because they also have some kind of an affinity to the work and the industry that they're a part of. So they would definitely want to see it growing further and expanding into something meaningful. It's almost like when you're part of an organization where your values align. It's almost like you want to work in that place, because you're growing a tree that you want to give fruits from later on. And I think Gen Z has impacted workspaces a lot, and positively, and I think some even negatively, to couple of instances. But I think largely it would be very prudent for them to have a very open mind, listen to people, try and learn from their experiences, because these people, they carry a legacy and organizational knowledge that is very hard to get from any AI or any other kind of a system. I think one other way, that one other advice that I would have would be to probably build some kind of individual and organizational resilience for themselves and their teams and their organizations. Because I think once you go through a lot of change, once you go through a lot of upheaval, if you're resilient enough to be able to bounce back from a failure, I think that will go a long way in navigating this changing landscape.
I mean, the whole conversation has been so insightful for me, and I'm pretty sure that even the listeners would have learned so many things because
I hope they have.
yeah, I mean, because we discussed about the AI transforming, how AI would be playing a huge role in the transformation of the workplace in people's life, and how our organizations also changing, the kind of changes and evolution Gen Z is bringing to the table. So I think it will not just be helpful to individuals but also organizations, the kind of conversation that we have had. And thank you so much for like openly sharing all the insights.
No, I just learn from like what I read online. I learn from a lot of people who obviously are way more knowledgeable in this space, this area than I am, and I think there's a tremendous amount of research and work that's going on in this space.
Right.
And I think if we are just clued in and keep our ears close to ground and just understand like the changes that it's sprouting, I think it would be really wonderful for individuals, teams, and organizations. And I've just enjoyed this conversation so much. So once again, thank you a lot, Kritika. It's been a very, very positive experience.
It was such a pleasure talking to you as well. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Thank you so much, Tapas. And there you have it. Another episode of Psych and Success, packed with insights and real-world advice on business psychology, Gen Z, evolving workplace dynamics, culture, AI, and so much more. If you want to stay ahead of the curve and dig deep into the fabric of modern work, you know what to do. Hit that follow button, share this podcast with your network, and drop us a review on Spotify, Google Podcasts, or wherever you tune in. Your feedback not only supports us, but also helps us connect with more inquisitive minds like yours. By the way, if you're looking to get in touch with today's guest, I've got you covered. Check out the description for their contact details. And if you feel inspired to chat directly with me about these compelling subjects, you can book a quick call through my Calendly or shoot me an email. All the links are in the description. This is your host, Kritika Kashyap, reminding you that the future of work is here and it's evolving fast. So let's explore it together. Until next time.